Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question is, can I analyze the case of Sheila Davalloo? Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I'll put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. So first I'll go through the background of Sheila Davalloo. I'll move to the timeline of the crimes, then offer my analysis. Sheila Davalloo was born in Iran on May 11, 1969. Her family immigrated to the United States in the mid-1970s. She earned a degree in biochemistry. She would marry her first husband, but he would file for divorce not long after because he learned that she was having an affair with a man named Paul Christos. She ended up marrying Paul after her first marriage ended. She earned another degree from New York Medical College and found work as a research scientist at Purdue Pharma in Stamford, Connecticut. In 2001, she started having an affair with a man named Nelson Sessler. Nelson broke off this relationship in late 2001 because he was pursuing another love interest, a woman named Annalisa Raimundo. Nelson worked at the same place as Sheila, Purdue Pharma. Annalisa had worked there too, but she took a job with a company in New Jersey and was mostly working from home. This takes us to November 8, 2002. Annalisa was found dead in her condominium in Stamford, Connecticut. She had been stabbed 9 times in her face, neck, and chest. There was evidence of a violent struggle in her condominium. Objects were thrown everywhere. Some items were broken. There was a lot in disarray. Her body was found near the front door. A mysterious 911 call came in to report the attack that killed Annalisa. The call originated from a fast food restaurant. The caller, who was female, claimed that she saw a man attacking Annalisa, but the caller hung up without identifying herself. Nelson, who by this time was Annalisa's live-in boyfriend, returned to the condominium to find a number of police vehicles and yellow tape surrounding the residence. When he approached the residence, the police stopped him and asked him who he was. When he said that he was Annalisa's boyfriend, they were very interested in talking to him. There were a few reasons the police were suspicious about Nelson, his status as her boyfriend, and when they told him about Annalisa's death, they felt as though he was not emotional enough. For instance, he did not cry. Nelson responded to the news of Annalisa's death by saying, "Where is her body?" and then he asked if there was a burglary. They took him in for questioning and accused him of killing his girlfriend. Ultimately, however, he was ruled out as a suspect. He had an alibi. Nelson gave the police the name of 2 former girlfriends who he believed had mental health issues, so he was trying to offer suspects to the police. He did not tell them about Sheila. He felt as though she did not manifest any signs of instability. So with his failure to mention Sheila, at this point, she was not a suspect. She wasn't on the radar of the police at all. Now we move to May 23, 2003. Sheila is still married to Paul Christos. The pair has not had sex in a long time. The relationship is not going well. Sheila came up with the idea to play a sex game with her husband. He agreed. One of them would be blindfolded and handcuffed to a chair, and the other person would touch objects to their skin. The idea was to guess the objects. Sheila was handcuffed first. So far the game was uneventful, but then it was Paul's turn. While he was handcuffed to the chair, Sheila stabbed him twice. She said it was an accident. He asked her to call 911. She pretended to call, but never actually did. He asked to speak with the 911 operator. She told him, "They don't want to talk to you." He requested to go to the hospital, so Sheila drove him there. When they arrived at the hospital, Sheila seemed upset that Paul was still alive. So the vehicle was in the parking lot, Paul was in the back seat. Sheila came around to the back seat and stabbed him again. He managed to call for help, and people responded. He was treated at the hospital and would survive. Sheila was arrested for attempted murder, assault, and criminal possession of a weapon. During her trial, the prosecution's theory was that she was trying to kill her husband so she could be with Nelson, Annalisa's love interest. Sheila would be convicted in February of 2004. She was sentenced to 25 years in prison. This gave the prosecution a lot of time to prepare a murder case against her. So she was in custody, and they were working on Annalisa's murder. Sheila wasn't arrested until November of 2007, and her trial would not occur until 2012. Sheila decided to represent herself in her trial. The evidence against her was substantial. Let's take a look at it. Sheila's blood was found on a sink handle in the bathroom of Annalisa's condominium. The DNA of that blood matched Sheila's DNA. A voice recognition expert testified that the match between the mysterious 911 caller and Sheila was 68%, so the voices were quite similar. The love triangle was inculpatory. After Annalisa's death, Sheila rekindled her affair with Nelson. After Sheila was arrested in 2003, she sent love letters to Nelson. Testimony indicated that Sheila borrowed her husband's night vision goggles and a lockpick kit. Apparently, Paul Christos had these night vision goggles because he was a fan of the show X-Files, and he used them to hunt for UFOs. Sheila talked about breaking into Annalisa's condominium prior to the murder. She also wanted to record Annalisa's voice, like eavesdrop on her. Records at Purdue Pharma indicated that Sheila left their offices in Stamford for 2 hours on the morning Annalisa was killed. Here is what Sheila pointed out in her defense. She tried to explain the DNA in the bathroom by saying that the sample was resubmitted to the State Police Crime Lab. She was trying to get to the bottom of what happened. So really, she didn't do anything to counter that evidence. She said that the voice match of 68% was not high enough to be taken seriously. She pointed out that the investigators did not have a murder weapon. They could not place her at the scene. There was DNA at the crime scene that was never matched to anyone. She pointed out that Annalisa had a weight advantage over her, which would make it difficult for Sheila to defeat her in hand-to-hand combat. Of course, it was alleged that Sheila was armed with a knife. She noted that a blue contact lens was found in Annalisa's hair. Neither Annalisa nor Sheila wore blue contact lenses. She talked about a witness who saw Annalisa arguing with a man the morning she was killed. Sheila never revealed where she was when Annalisa was killed. She didn't even try to produce an alibi. Sheila was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to 50 years. She will have to serve that in Connecticut after she finishes her 25-year sentence in New York. Sheila is expected to be released in 2079 when she is 110 years old. Now moving to my analysis. It came out in the trial that Sheila had a mental health history. The prosecutor would say that she was less than psychologically robust, while reminding the jury that Sheila did not mount an insanity defense. Sheila had a history of depression starting at age 15. Let's take a look at some of the behavior exhibited by Sheila when she was in the relationship with Paul. She was preoccupied with other men, including Nelson. She was quick to anger, had low mood, had difficulty concentrating, would occasionally cry uncontrollably, did not cope with stress well. She was embarrassed that Paul's family found out that she was married to her first husband while dating Paul, and she really kind of lost control of her mood a few times surrounding that issue. So that was something that she was highly embarrassed about. She was extremely sensitive to any discussion of her brother who had a mental illness. She did not want people to know about him. After her arrest, she claimed to have a number of additional symptoms, including anxiety, psychosis, and symptoms of obsessive-compulsive disorder. Clinicians did not seem to be convinced she had any of those symptoms. Sheila's depression does not explain why she committed murder and attempted murder. Sheila appeared to be deceptive, manipulative, self-centered, envious, arrogant, and lacked empathy. There are those that believe she had characteristics consistent with psychopathy and narcissism. Perhaps that was really what led to her behavior more so than depression, if depression contributed at all. In addition to being effective at manipulating people, I think what happened in the case of Sheila was that she ran into a number of very gullible people. For example, her husband Paul really gave her the benefit of the doubt. The prosecution described her husband as gullible but intelligent. Here are a few examples of Paul's behavior that likely led to that conclusion by the prosecution. Paul felt guilty for missing Sheila's signs of depression. He had some feelings of obligation toward her even after she tried to kill him. So this was at the trial when he had these feelings. Sheila ran up $40,000 to $50,000 in credit card debt right under his nose. After she stabbed him twice, he still wanted to work things out. He still believed that being stabbed twice could have been an accident. This is like a prisoner in front of a firing squad saying to a guard, the jury can still change their minds, right? Sheila was cheating on Paul in their residence, so she was with Nelson in the place where she lived with Paul. In order to clear the way for Nelson to come over, she would tell Paul that her brother, who was mentally ill, was coming over to the residence to spend the night. Paul had to go to a hotel room and could not come by unexpectedly. Sheila would discuss her strong feelings for Nelson with Paul, although she referred to Nelson using a pseudonym. She even sought counseling from a mental health professional to deal with those strong feelings of attraction. Paul was aware of this. Nelson also appeared to be willing to believe just about anything Sheila said. He claimed that he didn't know that Sheila was married. Evidently, she hid Paul's property when Nelson came over. He said that he had no idea that she was obsessed with him, and Nelson claimed the relationship was never serious because it did not involve the word love. I think what happened here is that Sheila wasn't actually that good at manipulating people, but she experienced tremendous success because, again, she was dealing with people who were very gullible and people who were emotionally invested. It was like playing a video game on an easy setting for many years. When Sheila committed homicide and then attempted homicide, she was now playing on the hard setting. She was dealing with the police, who were not gullible and had no interest in her romantically. During her trial, she represented herself believing that she could manipulate the jury. They were not gullible or emotional either. Sheila was using a low-level tactic in a high-level situation, and she could not understand why no one was believing her. I think one of the best examples of how simplistic her tactics were was her explanation for the attack on her husband. She said that when they were playing this sex game, his body came up and ran onto the knife twice, even though, of course, he was handcuffed to the chair. Then, to explain the third stabbing in the hospital parking lot, she said that she produced the knife, he took it from her, then in the process of her trying to grab it back from him, he got stabbed. That was not the only testimony she had that was confusing. Her lies were so obvious and poorly thought out that I have to wonder if she wasn't trying to incapacitate the jury by vicarious embarrassment. It was like she was trying to prove that Cringe could be fashioned into a lethal weapon. So now moving to my final thoughts on this case. Sheila appeared to be highly influenced by her romantic feelings for people. When she realized that Nelson was not interested in her, she felt as though she hit rock bottom. She allowed her obsession with Nelson to dominate her life and lead to homicide. She could not accept rejection. In her mind, she could not be denied that which she deserved. She was going to have her way no matter what it required. In the end, she would end up finding 75 years in prison, which, as it turns out, was exactly what she deserved. Those are my thoughts in the case of Sheila Davalloo. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comment section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis on this topic to be interesting. Thanks for watching.